Okay, if we're ready to start, we'll call this meeting to order. This will be the January meeting of the Porter County Election Board, and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call.
Member Roush?
Here.
Member Chittister?
Here.
Member Lowe?
Here.
Member Bangs?
Here.
Clerk Bailey? Here.
Clerk's report.
So the first thing is that I did not put on there that we needed to reorganize, so thought we could do reorganizing under clerk's report.
Okay, so what do we need to do to?
We just need a motion and a second for president and vice president.
Can we just do this? Let's make a
Probably
motion to
just-
keep everything the same?
Motion to
Yes.
keep the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, done.
And then we need to reappoint our election board attorney.
So moved? Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, done is done.
Okay, besides that, I have that the campaign finance software was able and ready for the annual report, so we'll have more information about that later on. And then our 3 input sessions for the vote center plan were held. There was a lot of good information, a lot of good questions, and we have more information of that at the end as well. That's all I have. Short and sweet.
Director's report. Anything, girls? Ladies?
Now your turn.
Found at one of the meetings that they're not picking up the people in the audience. When
Okay.
You're trying to do the minutes. So,
We'll talk close to the mics. Let me find where that paper is.
well, the first thing is we are hiring in the office if you know anybody part-time that would like to work for the election office, so I'm struggling with that a little bit.
Yeah.
Apparently nobody likes us.
Not even an application received. Nobody's trying.
Nobody's called us.
Yeah, wait till we gotta get poll workers.
I know, I'm a little bit nervous.
Telling you right now, that's gonna be a real adventure.
That's what, we had somebody that came into file and they owned a business and said they had 8 people came in and filled an app out. They called them for interviews and not one of them showed up for the interview. So
Wow.
we're a little bit nervous, but I think it will be okay.
But if we found workers in 2020, it
Oh,
can't
yeah.
be worse than that.
Nope.
Yeah.
Hope you're right.
Okay, so we already started receiving absentee applications for the May primary, so they are starting to come in already. Our office is still under construction if you stop by to see us. It is almost.
It's a lot better.
Huge improvement, though. We're near the end, but we got new carpet. The Rolodexes are finally demoed and removed, so now we'll have room for new desks if anybody decides to work for
They
us.
ran us through data. Yeah, new electrical, nobody's sitting there, but
The Easy Vote program, like Jessica mentioned, we did roll that out right before the annuals were due. Out of 96 committees, 45 of them have registered so far to use it. So,
That's pretty good.
in the short time that we've been rolling it out, it's really impressive.
now Kennard has 30 of those, so.
I wasn't gonna say that part.
I'm kidding.
We are handing out the link and the information on how to register and sign up and start using it to any candidates that are coming into file. We put it in with the reminders we send out for the campaign finance reports due, and we also made it an additional part of our signature on our email so that when we respond to somebody, they can see the information there as well, just to try to make sure that anybody can see it that needs
Yeah,
to.
if they email the report into us, we tell them, hey, did you know you could file online?
Yeah.
And they respond received, so that
Well, and
way.
you would be amazed at how many people used it, so they got their last minute reports
Oh,
of
yep.
it yesterday.
I had somebody call me and say, hey, I'm in Indy and what do I do? And I said, I'll send you the link.
Yep.
Got it at, what, 11:50?
But it worked.
But
was
it
before
worked and we
noon.
got it, yeah, and it was on time, so.
We've been working with the GIS coordinator a lot for maps, but also trying to implement more, I don't know if I'd call it software, but it's an ESRI solutions that enables vote times to be tracked and recorded, and it will all come together as a link on our website. So voters, anybody can go click on this link that'll then take them to a site where they can view all local locations nearby. So it's location based. So if you're out shopping and you want to go vote, you can see that this place is open, it has this wait time. This place here is just as close with this address. So it gives a lot of information all in one place for voters to be able to easily go vote on election day.
And it should have the candidates on, the local candidates will be on there, as well as their whole mapping system, there's a precincts.
Right.
It's a lot more information, and it's a lot more user-friendly than what we have now.
It also has the ability to generate reports for us. So on election day, it has the feature of tracking wait times, but then we can also generate a report saying, okay, look, this location had way more of a line than the others, so we can,
It'll help us a lot
Act
with the
accordingly,
vote centers
yeah,
as
yeah.
well, if,
to be able to staff it better or give it more machines or whatever it may need. It also offers a voter survey so that when people are done voting, they can go to that link and fill out a survey and let us know, how did this process go? Did it help that you could see the wait times, any positives, negatives? And then we can run reports of that as well to see voter feedback on how everything's going on election day.
so it's not just more information for the candidates and the voters, it's gonna be more information for
all of
us
us,
as well,
too.
so
Right.
that the office can grow more, and
So we had talked about it before, but now we are trying to have it implemented to be for the primary election.
we just like to be busy.
That's all I have for this part, and then we'll have more to talk about when we get to, is
finance.
campaign finance next?
It's a couple more down.
Okay. Should we just stay here? No?
I think we should be that close to the mic. Sorry, that didn't slide.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is approval of the October and December meeting minutes. You have hard copies in front of you. If there's no objection, I'll move to accept them as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Resolutions for 2022 elections.
We have two of them for today, and so that would just be approving the 16, 17-year-old as poll workers, and also that we are going to be using e-poll books for the elections. So that we get a head start on them.
So do we need to motion or just
Yeah, we'll need
sign?
to approve them just like we normally do.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion to approve the 16, 17-year-old poll workers.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so that's what each of these are. in
Nope,
their
the
own
second
way.
one is
Second one?
that we're gonna use e-poll books instead of
Ah.
paper poll books.
And I'll make a motion to approve the e-poll book resolution.
And I'll second that one. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Today's date is what? 20th.
20th.
All right, vote center plans.
So since the last meeting, we've had our 3 public input sessions, and like I said before, we really had a lot of good information, a lot of good questions, and at each one of the public information sessions, we added to the PowerPoint presentation that we gave in order to reflect the questions and concerns that we had in the previous meeting. So we used all of that information, and then we went down with what the state requires us to have in the vote center plan, and I passed that out, I think, to everyone. Ours ended up with all the graphics and information that we put in it. It's about 78 pages. So from now on, after the board approves the plan to go public, then the next step would be that it would be open for public comment, in written form for the next 30 days. So that means they can email the elections office, they can write a letter to the elections office, they can email us, but it has to be in writing. I don't know why the state mandates it's in writing, but that's what they say. So the next 30 days, it'll be open for public comment, and then that puts us where we have the ability to make any amendments that we need to make based on those comments, and then we'll bring it back before the board for the February meeting. And then if the board approves it, then we'll be on the commissioners and the council agenda for them to approve it. And knock on wood, everything goes smoothly, will be approved February 22nd by all three entities.
Hey, Jess, you want to mention that the people that came to the early meetings, there was a couple changes with
Yes.
Hilton Gardens was on that list and it's no longer there. And then-
Yes, we've had some location changes. That's why every time we had the meeting, we referenced everything as proposed. The Hilton Garden Inn did come back that we were permitted to be there, however, they were doing a room charge. And we didn't budget for it, and it's not a precedent that we want to start. It was just above and beyond what we would normally pay any other location. So that wasn't fair to them, so instead we decided to go to the Dunlin Bus Barn, which is across 49 from that area. Still good access to the toll road. And then also, we did not hear back from the Greek Orthodox Church. They have a meeting in February where they'll vote on it. So for the meantime, we decided to go to Sunset Hill Farm, which is, again, right off Route 6. So it's another great location. Easy in and out, plenty of parking. So that will, and it's another public building. So we know it's ADA accessible and meets all of our requirements.
Very good. I didn't want anybody thinking that we're trying to play games and change things around or anything like this at the last minute. This has all been transparent and we're going to keep it that way. So, that's why I asked just to make mention of that stuff.
Yeah, so in the plan, there's all the list of the address of the locations, and then we also included the map of the locations. It's easier to see when it's in color, but I didn't have access to that currently.
Here too, if anybody wants to see.
Okay. So we do have the maps available for today too. The plan goes through all of our equipment, it goes through all of our, all of the election workers and their responsibilities. There's page numbers associated with it, so I think we really did a pretty detailed report. The reports online, they go typically anywhere from like 20 pages to 60 pages, so. If anybody sees, based on comment, or if the board sees anything or doesn't see something that they'd like to have mentioned, we can make amendments until February.
So anybody have any other questions or comments they'd like to make before we vote to move this along? Hearing none, I will make the motion that we take this report as written with the public input and the voting locations for vote centers and move that into the next phase of getting the okay to make the change.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Monica, do we need to do a roll call for that one?
Yeah,
'Cause
do
it
we
has to
need
be
roll
unanimous?
call since it has to be unanimous?
Okay. President Roush,
Yes.
Vice President Lowe,
Yes.
Member Chittister,
Yes.
Member Banks,
Yes.
Secretary Bailey, yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Campaign finance reports.
I have, some stuff to give you guys for this work. So, the deadline was yesterday at noon. We had 5 reports that were outstanding. We have received 2 after the deadline. We received 2 after the deadline, and then there is still 3 that are currently outstanding. So we're giving you a copy of all of the ways that we have reached out to these candidates to let them know. There's copies of the Facebook posts, which dates and times we had it posted, as well as the emails that were sent to them. So I think there's 5 in total. 5. And I think that this goes well beyond our responsibilities to make sure that they're aware of the deadline. I know that we had started the finding process last year, and I don't know if it matters, but our recommendation is that we need to follow through this time now. We've gone above and beyond to make sure that they're aware of the deadline. Whenever you file for candidacy, you're told about deadlines, and some of these people have been candidates for years, so I don't think there's really a reason to have much leniency at this point.
And I agree, Becky and I have talked about it a lot, so.
Not that we want to be evil to these
No,
candidates, but
but
they have an
it's a lot of-
obligation when they file for office, and they should be expected to.
And it's a lot of work for us to put out these reminders, and it's a lot of work for other people too.
To
and for us
track and manage,
them
yeah.
and manage this, and it's not an easy task. It takes a lot of time and a lot of energy out of
Unnecessary
stuff
time.
that we could be doing otherwise, so.
So
it's-
just for point of order then, the next step would be that Monica, you would notify them that they are delinquent in the filing of their campaign finance reports and that they are summoned to appear before us at the next time to
Yes.
address that. And
That
then
is
at that point in time, we'll hear them out and determine
correct.
the appropriate fine, if any. Okay.
And this will apply to all 5, even though
All
2
5?
complied, they were still late.
They were all considered to
They're
be-
all
Okay.
like,
I do have the,
I mean, there is a
The
per
latest.
day fine.
Yes.
That
Have
is
the
in
addresses.
So even for the ones that are 1 day late, there's still a fine that can be assessed by the board.
where's the
And
agenda?
then for the 3 that are still outstanding, they're just collecting additional days.
right.
One of them, when we went through past correspondence with them, last year for the annual, she had said that she was in the process of moving to Michigan. She has not disbanded her committee, so if she fully lives in Michigan now, we don't have an address for that, but
Okay.
that's the situation for one of them.
And now you guys have a list that you
Yeah.
posted on, I think.
The window, yep.
Posted on your.
Of who's late, and then I got the address.
Yeah. Thank you, thank you.
Now,
I
do
will
we,
make a motion to authorize Monica to take the next step in the process to send a formal notice to those individuals that their finance reports are late and demand that they appear before us at our next regularly scheduled meeting to address that.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Opposed?
You gonna let us know who that is, so in case I get any threatening phone calls? and
Yeah,
stuff, You
we-
know what I mean? I'll know ahead of time.
Yeah,
yeah, I
it's-
think they're
It's
gonna.
public.
These guys all
Heather,
have
you're
to
gonna
get
give me a
mouthy, you know what I mean?
Sheriff,
Amendments, and then Jessica, do you
Well,
want to?
what, yeah, once they get
Want
the
us to read them
letter.
now, or you want to?
yeah, it's
ahead, yeah.
Sheriff
I don't know
Sheriff
about your
Reynolds.
side, but my side, I get it.
Yeah,
Sheriff Reynolds is one of them.
yeah.
We did hear that his treasurer may have some family issues going on right now. Angela Crossan is the one that we believe moved to Michigan, and then Deborah Lee. So she was Portage.
Those are the 3 that are out.
He's new.
Still
Those are 3
outstanding.
All the red
outstanding.
ones are ones he does.
And then who,
Oh,
in the
yeah.
interest of transparency, who are the 2 that were late then?
Robert Cotton and
Christopher
Christopher
Buckley.
Buckley.
Okay. Yeah, the whole purpose of what we did in the last cycle with, you know, finding someone $1 was to lay down the marker that
Which is
said, we're not
paid now,
doing
by
this
the way."
anymore.
Yes,
So we're not gonna do this anymore.
Right.
Right.
Cool.
The dollar is paid now, by the way.
Good.
Oh, good. You have on this, there's another,
That's another one. So that is a political action committee. So 5 candidates
okay.
that were late. Now on to political action committees. We didn't used to grade the regular parties in political action committees. We gave him kind of a year to do the regular candidates, and now we're merging into enforcing it on the PACs and the regular parties as well. So the PAC there, it's titled Democrats for Cannon for Portage. It was not affiliated with John Cannon himself as the candidate. It was somebody else that opened it to support him. I have emailed him numerous times since 2019, letting him know that he is outstanding on reports. He will respond by filing his
His
own
own
candidacy
candidacy.
paperwork. but has not responded at all in reference to the PAC. So, he owes a 19 annual, 20 annual, and a 21 annual. So now that we're catching up with these, he can be added to your list if possible to reach out to.
So he owes still the 19 and the 20
19, 20, and then the
Now
21.
21.
annual reports, okay.
Yep. And it's a zero balance, so he could simply just disband
yeah.
if he chooses. But we have had no luck getting a response. We've tried multiple times and through different people to contact him.
I thought PAX had to file with the state.
Pardon?
I
If
thought
they,
PAX had to file with the state.
No,
If they-
PACs file locally if they support local candidates. They have to file with the state if they support state candidates or above. So
And
if
he
they're only
did-
supporting local candidates, then they file local.
yeah, he did, this one is filed with us and not the state, because I made sure.
Make a motion to send him a letter. Get him in here next month.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
What- I was gonna say-
dissolution?
Yeah, we have one dissolution.
I have it all.
Yeah.
Well, while we're still talking about the annuals, though,
Yeah, let's do them.
finish all the annual part. Our consultant here for the candidates that he is not the treasurer for, he already has reviewed 70 of them so far, and the deadline was yesterday, so go Kennard.
You're like, give us a break, okay?
He walked in yesterday at like 3 PM, and I'm like, no, go. So only 16, is that correct? That need corrections, so that is a huge improvement already, since when we started this.
Actually, let me quantify that 16. I've reviewed one person's report twice and rejected it twice. So there's actually 15 outstanding that need to be revised, and 54 of them that were fine with no revisions required at all.
Much improved.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's working.
yeah.
And we don't find those guys because they filed the report. It just-
Correct.
So I said they literally
Kind
had
of like the IRS, you got more rights if you file a false
There
report
is a
than you
timeline.
than you
What it
do
takes.
if you file no report, you know?
There is a timeline that is applicable. Once we get it, they are supposed to correct it, and there is a timeline for which they need to correct it. If they don't correct it within that timeline,
Then they
then
get-
yes,
then they
we
get
can
fined.
get them a
Fine them
notice
again.
and
Okay.
have them appear.
Yeah, they have 10 days to correct the errors in their report. After the 10th day, if they have not resubmitted a new report, then there's a $10 a day fine or up to a $100 total fine for filing an inaccurate report.
So those corrections will go out either this afternoon or tomorrow
In
morning.
each case, I told them exactly what was wrong and where they needed to put. It's a lot of misfiling, filing PACs, the unions, under unions instead of PACs.
Yeah, they're just putting it in the
Filing
wrong
LLCs
schedule
and
or,
corporations rather than those kinds of things, and then some other errors.
and just to add to it too, we only do this to try to help educate the candidates on how to properly fill it out. We're not trying to correct them or call them out for mistakes. It's more for education so that they
don't
can be
have to,
aware of what they
yeah.
did wrong. And as we
Get
see, since we've
accurate.
started with the grading process, I think a lot of candidates are catching on now to know, oh, that's how I report this, and it's improving.
Yeah, in the reports that I edited that were done online, there was only one that had an error, and they put a wrong number in one place. So it's an easy correction. But the ones online were much better than the ones doing the old system, because the old system, they were missing stuff too. The new system, you can't miss it because it doesn't allow you to go on to the
Proceed,
next
yeah.
entry, and you can't file it if you're missing information. You can still file it where you put something in the wrong category.
Right.
But that's easy to catch also. But missing information is another common problem with the new system. You can't miss the information because it won't let you proceed.
Thank you.
Did you have anything else on that matter? Okay, so then now the administratively dissolving of Jean Ullman's report. So she, I think we've discussed her before.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys, we do every year.
You've had
This
to
is the
track down?
third, yeah, this is
Yeah.
the third year now to where we are able to finally dissolve her.
Because she's under
Committee
1,000.
ourselves.
Under 1,000, it's been 3 years. I think we had reached out multiple times to family members. She was ill across the country now. So I have her information, her last filed report. I don't know what you need, but I assume you have the process we need to follow for administratively dissolving? If not, I have printed it. So it just says, she has to be at 3 years, $1,000 or less, cash on hand. Then we can begin the formal process of dissolving the committee. You must send a notice by certified mail to the chairman and treasurer of the committee. She was the only person. There was no other chairman or treasurer. At the last known address. The notice must state that the board will conduct a hearing on a specific date to dissolve the committee. If the board conducts the hearing and finds that the committee should be dissolved, then the board issues an order disbanding the committee. The board then arranges for the publication of a legal notice stating the name of the committee and the date that the committee was disbanded.
So that just merely takes then a motion from the board that I'll go ahead and serve them with notice, and they would have to appear. If they end up not appearing, then it would
Then
be
we-
defaulted and we would automatically.
And I live in Couch, they are not at that address any longer, so it's gonna come back, so you know. But, and we have to send it, but
Right, right,
I know
right.
they
It's the
sold that
last known
house, they
address.
don't live there. She
I'll
lives
make a
in-
motion to initiate that process to administratively dissolve that committee.
I second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Is that it?
Just need that
I think that's it, just dissolution and the
Becky, I'll just need
delinquent,
to
we already did that.
documentation to go. Do we have any idea what the, like, contact information from anybody?
Whenever the parties tried to contact them in the past about this, the family wants nothing to do with it, and that's why we're having to do it ourselves.
Yeah.
So,
No, I get it.
I did think that she's incapacitated.
yeah, she's
or-
incapacitated, she lives with her daughter, and I think it's like
Arizona
Virginia
or-
or something.
I thought it's somewhere
Yeah, it's
not
really
local.
far. I'm not, one of them lives in, yeah. Her
Maybe
kids live in
once-
all different states, it's
Yeah.
not.
But I have whatever information we had for her, the address and
Yep.
email address, phone
Yeah.
number.
That'd be great.
So at the end of the process, her dollar funds, whatever that amount is, goes to the state or to the county, or what has to, what will happen?
Funds are in her possession
Yeah,
and
so
we're
we don't
unaware
know.
of what happened with
And they
them.
would remain because we
Yeah.
don't know where she's.
But it was
Just
under
basically
the,
cleaning up our files.
because she, whether she still had it or not, we have no way of knowing. But
Right.
it had to be under that $1,000 amount to qualify for this.
And the reason we can't do that with that Democrats for Cannon is because they filed a pre-primary
So
in
it would be
19, so it
next
would
year.
be,
Oh, so it has
we'd have to be after the, and the date is the 28th of January that you have to dissolve them by, so.
I think that's all we have.
Did we motion?
I
I
thought,
didn't write it down.
Ethan did.
Okay. Hopefully Kathy.
Good? You guys are good?
That's all we
I
have.
think so.
All right, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Upcoming meetings.
We have our February meeting, and that's a change from normal, so it's February 18th at noon. And then, assuming the vote center plan passes unanimously from this board, we would go to the commissioners on February 22nd at 10 a.m. and the county council on the same date at 5:30.
Can you repeat those last two
Fe-
February dates?
The last two for the
Yeah.
commissioners and the council are both February 22nd. The commissioners is at 10 a.m. and the council's at 5:30.
Okay, other business? Public comment? Yes, sir.
As a user,
Kendra, can you come up to the, sorry. We realize that we can't hear, and when they're typing the minutes, it's hard.
Jennifer Klug, 200 Franklin Street, Town of Porter. I'll sit down. You're going to sit down, I'll sit down too. Okay. I have a question about disclaimers. On January 18th, the Chesterton Tribune printed a Voice of the People policy, a new policy about endorsing candidates and political parties and ballot issues. And it said, election law, if paid for by someone other than the author, election law stipulates the funding source must be included, quote, political ad paid for by, end quote. Now, even if the letter is paid for by the writer, shouldn't it have a disclaimer also? Because I know over the years I put in paid ads, and I'm not a political action committee because I'm by myself. I use money from my working, and I don't take donations or anything like that, so I'm not a political action committee. But I've put paid ads in over the years in the newspaper, and I've always had to put a disclaimer, even if it was something like a letter that was my name at the bottom. So shouldn't there be a disclaimer at the end of all letters that are paid for?
All letters?
So I guess here's the question I've got is, do you have an example of what it is that is being, what, like?
A lot of it is determined by size.
No, it's any letters from candidates or endorsing or opposing a candidate or political party.
This was actually a business announcement by the Chesterton Tribune newspaper that they were going to treat any Voice of the People letters written in support of a candidate or a position that could be deemed political as it relates to that community as a paid political ad, no longer a Voice of the People.
Got it, okay. So I guess I don't understand the question then.
The question is, when it talks about paid for by someone other than the author, election law stipulates the funding source must be included.
Right.
But even if it's paid for by the author, shouldn't the funding source be included and say paid for by such and such, not endorsed by any political candidate or something of the sort?
But your question really is about what might happen down the road that hasn't happened yet, right?
Well, it basically, I just, I think that a lot of people, I mean, personally, I'm against charging for Voice of the People letters, but if people have the money and they will it in a letter, a lot of people might not know about disclaimer law.
Okay.
But I think the disclaimer law doesn't apply if they're not a part of a party or political action party, right? So are you saying, like, if Kathy here wants to write, vote for John Doe, she doesn't have to have a disclaimer because she's paying for it out of her own personal?
Yeah.
So just like, so with our candidates that don't make over 5,000, if they don't open a candidates committee, they still have to have that paid for disclaimer on their thing, but it just literally says paid for by John Doe.
Yeah.
It doesn't say paid for by John Doe, so no, they don't. Even if they don't have a committee, they still have to have that paid for by John Doe on it, but it doesn't tell you that funded by, it just says paid for by John Doe, just like on the letter, it would just be authored by
Yeah,
Mary
but
Smith.
well, what I'm saying is over the years, those things that I put in the paper that I paid for, like I put myself, I've always been told that I have to have a disclaimer saying paid for by Jennifer Klug, not endorsed by any candidate or candidates committee on everything, even if it has like a letter with my name at the bottom. So what I'm saying is,
So I think it's, her question earlier is about getting a paid ad, but I don't know that there's anything, this is something that the Chesterton paper's gonna do, and it seems like to me that they have a sense of what has to be on there, but it's really hard to complain about something that hasn't happened quite yet. So maybe the best way to deal with this is, and I know that you're really good at staying up on everything that gets printed in the Chesterton Tribune, and if you think at that time something wasn't done correctly, that's when to kind of bring it to the board's attention.
Okay, well, I'm just saying, I just think that maybe they should say that all letters have to have a disclaimer.
Well,
on it.
we can't tell Chesterton Tribune, we can't tell them how to print their paper.
Yeah, but at the same, I'm just
Okay.
saying, if somebody doesn't understand disclaimer law and they put something in the paper, I don't, people getting in trouble for it.
I think that makes a lot of sense, but there's nothing we can do with the Chesterton Tribune
Okay.
to tell them what to print, not to print, if somebody does it right, doesn't do it wrong. I mean, and you're a great advocate of all of this, and so if you see something that you think doesn't comply, that's when to bring it to our attention. I mean, we can't go and police the Chesterton Tribune and say, don't put this in.
No, I understand that.
You know, and
I'm
I
just-
don't think that we are gonna be in a position of helping them to edit to make sure it's done right either.
Okay,
Because we can't do that.
so if there's no disclaimers, and there should be a disclaimer, does it fall on the person putting in the letter, or does it fall on the paper?
So it's sort of like with the yard signs or some other things
Uh-huh.
that have happened, is that people like yourself will say, hey, election board, somebody's got this out here, it doesn't comply, and you file a complaint, and then we address it.
Okay, so I just don't, I just think that a lot of people don't know disclaimer laws, and somebody might get in trouble because they put in, put in letters and say, well, there's no disclaimer.
Yeah.
And people don't always know. A lot of people don't understand stuff like that, just regular people that have,
Yeah.
that do things they don't understand about disclaimers, and they don't understand about a lot of stuff.
I think your point's well taken,
Uh-huh.
but there's nothing we can do about it until it happens.
Okay,
So, I, looking over your shoulder, Amy's back there and she's kind of paying attention to all of that, So that's really that's a conversation, it's a wonderful conversation to have, maybe even with Amy, because I think Amy they listen to Amy a lot at Chesterton Tribune.
thank you.
So, but I get it, I get your,
Yeah,
Yeah, the question is legit.
yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
yeah. I
Thank
get
you.
it.
Sir?
I think this board and the elections and registration offices has taken a giant step forward with the new electronic filing of campaign finance reports. And I say this as an extensive user of it, as it's only 15 reports I filed. And I was a test case, and so they were kind of,
We need to thank you too, though, because we couldn't have got it up and running without your help getting all the
Well-
kinks out and testing it every day for hours and
but
hours.
what,
We made them come sit in our office and run reports through.
but what it does is it does two things. It aids with filing the reports, but more importantly, it allows a candidate or committee to keep up to date. Because you can go in and add contributions and add expenditures as they occur on a weekly, monthly basis. So that when the filing date comes, all you've got to do is enter your password code and hit a button, and it automatically submits it.
Instead of
And it's
scrambling.
updated.
It's updated to that date. You can keep it on the file, and until you actually enter the code and enter, I have reviewed this and they find it true, and then hit submit, it never goes anyplace.
It
It's
keeps an
stage.
updated, saved copy of it in there that you can live update, and then it also.
I can
goes in there.
review it and preview the report at any day. I've already started adding information from candidates that have received checks already into the reports. So that when report time
This is ready
comes,
for pre-primary part.
I've already set up the pre-primary report files for the individual candidates and stuff like that, so they can all do that now.
So
It's
will
really
this,
a great leap forward.
will this system give you cumulative data? I mean, if somebody donates in January and then again in March and then again in July and stuff like this?
You have to enter the year-to-date totals. When you make the second entry, it says how much you got, and you gotta remember that you put something in there in July. So you should use an Excel spreadsheet for that kind of cumulative data, but it forces you to put it in cumulative data in there.
The reason I ask is that there are certain situations that you cannot donate no more than like $2,500 or something like this, you know, or maybe $5,000.
It's not
stuff.
made to necessarily police the information that's entered, it's just an ease of the process of entering.
'Cause that-
It's not gonna stop you if you've exceeded a limit.
Because I was going to say, this is a candidate, this would show, I mean, you know, this will keep people from filing a complaint saying, hey, listen, so-and-so gave the person like $3,000 and stuff, and they only gave me 1,000 or
There's
something.
only-
They gave him over what, and so it is, and then we got to adjudicate that and say, hey, you got to give the money back,
Right.
or, you know, create
But
some
it's
problem.
that brings up an interesting point, and it's a flaw in the state law. It's interesting, if a corporation gives a candidate $2,500, they have just violated campaign finance law because corporations are limited to $2,000. The problem is, state law does not require that the candidate give the 500 back. The candidate can still keep the 500, but you can fine the corporation
For over-
$1,500 for over excess contribution. But there is nothing in state law that says the candidate has to give it back. And I talked to Brad King about why is that the case, and it's because it's $2,000 for all local candidates. So let's say a corporation A gives one candidate 1,000, another candidate 1,000, and another candidate 500. They just went over by 500, but which candidate is required to pay the money back? So that's why state law is mute on that point. The board can fine the corporation, but the candidates do not have to give the money back. Now, most candidates I work with, if somebody gives them too much money, I say, we're giving the 500 back because we don't want them to get in trouble. But that's over and above what is normal.
They need to
But the
fix
new
that.
system would still allow that excess contribution, but it won't point that out. But it at least allows them to keep up to date much easier and make it much easier to do campaign finance.
Yeah, they need to fix that, that's ass backwards.
On another note too, though, about that, in a perfect world, if we ever get 100% of campaign finance submitted through this program, then it's searchable too, that I could go into the public site and look up Ken Taylor, and I can see anytime his name was entered on anyone's public reports too. So that's a cool feature if you're trying to see who has donated to who, or who has exceeded the amounts that they're not supposed to.
The state uses
It's for
that
enforcement.
feature for statewide candidates. And state legislators also are under that
But we
review
would have to be
process.
100% in the program for it to be completely accurate.
So I just want to compliment you for going forward on that.
Thank you. Thanks for your service to the voters of Porter
And them
County.
getting going.
Thank you.
Who reviews the reports that he don't get to review?
We send them to someone else.
Yeah,
I don't know
typically
if-
Brendan.
Oh, Clancy?
Yeah. So we have those all together for his review now too.
Any other comment?
What's our meeting in March? We have a meeting set in March. What's our date in March?
It's usually the third Thursday. So it'd be the 17th.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to adjourn if there's no further public comment.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you all for being here.